think that Lebron and Di Nenno seemed more worked in that one match than Lebron and Paquito had ever looked together. Maybe on the more kind of mental side, I saw him like so encouraging towards Lebron. Like every time Lebron, like let's say, did a really good smash or won a point, he was telling him like, Lebron, you're like so good, like shouting at him. And I think this is exactly what Lebron needs.
Lebron and Di Nenno, it is true that they've looked so good, so in sync. It's obvious that they look so in sync because their game styles match. I mean, so I think we do have to take this tournament win with a pinch of salt, because even if Lebron and Di Nenno looked like basically the new Chingalan in terms of...
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Paddle Pod, your weekly podcast covering professional paddle, presented by Hugo and Gons. We're on to episode 62. As always, joined by my co-host here today, Hugo. It's great to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Gons. It's Monday and I'm on holiday, so I can't really be complaining. And by the looks of it, you are as well.
Yeah, I am indeed. I might notice that the background is different than usual. And yeah, very happy to be on holiday. Maybe I'll take this moment as well to apologize beforehand if there's like some shady connections sometimes, because the Wi-Fi here probably isn't the best, but I'm sure that we'll pull through it. And maybe as well, if we could get a like, because I did bring all my equipment, my microphone and everything. And I tell you what, my girlfriend wasn't happy because we don't have the maximum allowance on our bags exactly. So yeah, I think the effort maybe deserves a like. Don't you think, Hugo?
100%. I mean, I think that at least deserves, 20 likes. I think we'll take it. 20 likes would be enough. And yeah, massive effort. So thanks very much, Gons. I brought my microphone down to Granada, but obviously I'm not having to jump on a plane and pack it. It was already a bit annoying, as you can imagine. As you say, there's not that much stuff you can fit in a car. And I was having those kind of assassin looks from my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Just being like, are you actually taking a microphone on holiday? But hey,
those are the ones. Exactly. Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
Very much so. And I hope that our audience enjoys this episode. But I mean, of course, we had to bring our mics down. And of course, we had to make an episode and talk about the latest Premier Padel tournament, because it was a really exciting one. We had a whole bunch of new pairs playing, and they did deliver some really, really good matches. And I'm talking, of course, about the Premier Padel P2 in Finland, which just went by. And, well, the winning pair, none other than Juan Lebrón and Martín Di Nenno. I mean, shock. To be fair, was it a shock for you, Hugo? Were you surprised at all with Lebron and Di Nenno winning the tournament?
It's a good question. I was definitely surprised about them playing so well. I had them down as one of the favorites. I mean, we chatted about it previously in our previous episode, and we highlighted a few of the main pairs. And I think we both agreed that the three favorites probably by far were Lebron, Di Nenno, Stupa and Yanguas, and Coki and Jon. So they were the number one seeded pair by very far. But as I say, I was very surprised about their level, because they were really, really good. And obviously we'll go into more depth about specifically how Lebron performed on his return to the backhand, and, well, how his game style and Di Nenno's seemed to match so well straight from the off. I was also really impressed by the coaching that went on the sideline. As we know, it was the I'm actually forgetting his name. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name.
Agustin Silingo.
Yeah, so Silingo, who's an absolute machine. I mean, have you seen him? He's like a bloody brick wall. But I was really impressed by him on the bench. I thought he was a very clear communicator. I thought the team seemed to be really in sync, and I think that was really important. But yeah, as I say, very surprised that they played so well, but they were one of the favorites, so not so surprised. How about you, Gons?
I think my answer is pretty much a carbon copy of yours. I'd say that not surprised by the result, because at the end of the day, when we talked about them in the previous episode, I put them as they were my top two, so them and Yanguas and Stupa. So I kind of did expect, and we did say, I mean, they were Lebron and Di Nenno for I think for both of us were kind of clearly the best players out of all the players that played the tournament. So not surprised at all that they actually managed to win, but very surprised about how they played as a pair. I think in their first match, instantly you could already see how their game styles like suited to each other. Like honestly, I think that Lebron and Di Nenno seemed more worked in that one match than Lebron and Paquito had ever looked together. And I think that just like speaks like volumes about how they just suited to each other. And maybe going a bit more in depth individually into both Lebron and Di Nenno, I think Lebron, I was really impressed both by his offensive side and defensive side. I think on the offensive side, I was just really impressed with the smash. Now, I do think that the court, it seemed like kind of fast and like good for smashing, but he was extremely efficient. I think there was maybe one game, which was the one that went to 3 sets against Leal and Campagnolo, where maybe he wasn't as prolific as he was the rest of the tournament. But I mean, in the final, absolutely insane. I think generated something ridiculous. Was it 27 winners, 6 unforced errors, and then in terms of smashing, 20 out of 34. So I mean, absolutely insane numbers there from Lebron. Also, the fact that he attempted 34 smashes. I mean, we talked about in the past how he was one of the players that sort of went for it the most. But if he's getting these sort of like numbers and percentages, then I mean, please go for it all you want, because that's going to win you a lot of games. So on the offensive side, and then maybe on the defensive side, I didn't expect him to be so comfortable, especially with the off the glass and the bounces. He honestly just seemed so natural to him. And we know how good he is, kind of like just your regular hand stroke, like, forehand stroke and sort of backhand stroke of the back of the court. But defending, I thought he was really, really good. And on Di Nenno's side, I mean, just your classic kind of just standard Di Nenno performance, where he's generating a very small amount of unforced errors, really getting to every ball, generating setting up the point well, and giving your maybe like 9-10 winners, which is still quite a, I guess, decent contribution from him. And as well, I think on the maybe on the more kind of mental side, I saw him like so encouraging towards Lebron. Like every time Lebron, like let's say, did a really good smash or won a point, he was telling him like, Lebron, you're like so good, like shouting at him. And I think this is exactly what Lebron needs. And on the benches as well, he's so active. Like he speaks, he's so motivated. Like even when I'm listening to them, I'm motivated. I'm like, Jesus, I want to jump out there in the court and play, alongside you. So it seems like Lebron has found his kind of perfect partner, at least for the time being. Now, I'll end it with this just to say that everything's a bit caveat, because I'm not going to change my whole opinion on Lebron Di Nenno until I see them play against Chingo Tongalan and Koyo Tapia. So, because I mean, I think that's fair. Let's just face it, the competition wasn't the best that there is out there. So great start, obviously amazing, and definitely was surprised by how they played. But I'm still not going to be fully bought in until I see them against the big dogs, let's just say.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, something that I think is really important to mention, at least in my eyes, is that they were on the easier side of the draw. Because when you look at the top pairs, at least the top 3-4 pairs in my eyes were obviously Lebron Di Nenno, but also the ones we just mentioned, Stupa, Yanguas, and Coki and Jon, and also Paquito and Cardona. And they were all, those 3 pairs were on the other side. So I think it's really important to take a step back, take that into account and say, hey, Lebron and Di Nenno, it is true that they've looked so good, so in sync. It's obvious that they look so in sync because their game styles match. I mean, they're both very fit. They're both, well, yeah, one of the fittest players on tour, no doubt. And they want to win the net as soon as possible. Whereas when Lebron played with Paquito, for example, Paquito just quite likes points going on for a bit and slowly creeping up and basically approaching the net when he really feels that he's won it, not just kind of take a risk, go for a chiquita and go and battle it out at the net. That's not what Paquito likes, but it is what Lebron and Di Nenno are very used to, sorry. And it's clearly what they're good at. So it is true that they match and they've won the tournament. They've performed really well. As you said, Lebron smashing was unbelievable. And we have mentioned throughout a number of our episodes that it is harder to smash from the forehand side of the court for right-handed players. It's obvious. So this could be a reason why he's smashing so well. I also think that it's probably been just over a year since Lebron came back from his injury. And maybe now is when he's back to 100%, because what's really important and to take into account, and what I think is important to emphasize, is that it's not just that his smashing is being really, really good and it's a very positive balance. It's the fact that he's going for so many smashes in each match. It means that he's confident and he's not worried about his elbow and about getting injured again. So I think that's probably something to mention. But yeah, as I say, they were on the easier side of the draw. I'd love to see Lebron play Paquito in that cross-court battle, because he's obviously one of the best backhand players in the world, probably the third best after Tapia and Galan. And also, I'd love to see Lebron play against Stupa in that cross-court battle, which obviously they didn't have to face them. So I think we do have to take this tournament win with a pinch of salt, because even if Lebron and Di Nenno looked like basically the new Chingalan in terms of how that partnership works, Di Nenno producing very few unforced errors, just giving Lebron all the confidence and giving him the big majority of the court, because Lebron's literally covering about 70% of the court. I mean, the amount of times that Lebron was shouting, "That's my ball," and going into the middle and even into the Nenno side of the court and playing the ball himself was really surprising, particularly given that he's just made the return to the backhand. So I think some people would say, hey, this could be the new Chingalan. But as you say, we've got to watch them play against the top pairs, and the two pairs that have basically dominated this season from start to finish, apart from the first tournament or two when Galan and Lebron were still together, are Chingalan and Cuello Tapia, and they didn't play in Finland. So until I see them play against the big dogs, I don't want to get too excited, but you know me, I am pretty excited after seeing Lebron play so well on the backhand. I mean, my God, I just didn't expect him to be so confident. I think that's probably the best way to put it. He was just trusting in his shots and just going for it. And he didn't really mind whether he'd make a mistake or make two mistakes in a row. He continued to play the same way, trying to win the net quickly, trying to produce a lot of winners. And it obviously worked.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, his energy seems so much different to what we'd seen in the past. I think a big part of it, as I mentioned, was Martín Di Nenno giving him so much support. And you could almost see Lebron smiling, like even when he was missing points and stuff like that, which is kind of been so rare to see over the last months and since the beginning of the season. Always felt like the whole Lebron Paquito, there was a lot of tension and a lot of pressure. And it kind of almost feels like Lebron is enjoying playing paddle again. And for me, a big reason for that is the support that he's getting from Di Nenno, which almost seems like unconditional. So yeah, I mean, a confident Lebron and a hard worker such as Martín Di Nenno, I think. Let's see how it goes, but I mean, they could just be very dangerous for the pairs at the top, and it could cause some chaos. Which I mean, I think it would be amazing for paddle. Obviously, the more like competition there is at the top, the better. And the importance of winning these sort of like maybe lesser tournaments as well. I think this is going to give them such a confident boost that they can go out there and compete with anyone and beat anyone. I think it's so important to take these moments when there isn't necessarily the top pairs to really get your confidence and win. And I even think like for some other pairs as well, for example, for Paquito and Cardona, who made a semi-final, if this was like your standard tournament with all the pairs there, maybe they wouldn't have challenged to a semi-final. Even in the semi-final, it was an incredibly tight match. 1, 2, 3 sets, they could have even made the final. So I think for them as well, such a like, I guess like a massive boost we're heading into the rest of the season. Maybe we can touch a bit on them. Hugo, what did you think of Paquito and Cardona?
Yeah, actually, just one final point on Lebron and Di Nenno that you mentioned, and I wanted to emphasize, is the mental side of that partnership. You've literally hit the nail on the head. I think Di Nenno is the perfect partner for Lebron. He just needs someone who's always backing him, always positive, because Lebron felt so much pressure from playing with Paquito that I think that really hindered the partnership. And I think that's precisely why we see him kind of so happy on the court and so confident. So yeah, but yeah, moving on to Paquito and Cardona, and actually taking the opportunity to say, don't you think this would have been, well, a few months back when the other P2 was played out in Brussels, don't you think it would have been the perfect time, as we mentioned, for both Paquito and Lebron and the Super Pibes to turn their seasons around, win that tournament? Could that have been basically a game changer for them? Maybe they'd still be playing together. Maybe they would have won other tournaments after winning that one. I genuinely think it would have, if the Super Pibes and Paquito and Lebron would have played that tournament, I definitely think one of the two pairs would have won it. Not knocking Coki and Jon, but I think the Super Pibes were a better pair. And I think Paquito and Lebron suffered against the top two, but they played well against all the other pairs. They could have easily won it. And it's amazing to think that they didn't go for it. They've now gone separate ways, and Lebron's just won it with his new partner. So
Can I confess something really quick?
Go for it.
Literally, what I was just talking about was just my deep inside thoughts, and I'm still mad about the fact that they didn't join that P2. So that was like the message, and it seems like you definitely got it.
Definitely. That's why I just wanted to take a quick moment to mention it. I felt your energy, and
Exactly.
I totally agree. I mean, I think this literally reflects why they should have done it. But anyway, moving on to Paquito and Cardona, I was actually really impressed by them. I thought they played a really, really solid tournament. I mean, they were on the harder side of the draw, so that's already something to take into account. And that semi-final against Coki and Jon was a sensational paddle match. And the two sets that Coki and Jon won were in the tiebreak, whereas the set that Paquito and Cardona won, which was the second set, was a 6-2 to them. So when you actually look at the number of games that Paquito and Cardona won in that match against Coki and Jon, they won more games than Coki and Jon did, which sometimes happens. It's a bit weird. And I know what really counts as the sets, but I think it reflects how tight the match was and how well Paquito and Cardona played. I think their game styles suit. At least that's what I'm seeing at the moment. They almost play kind of diagonally, as in Paquito's very comfortable to sit at the back of the court and kind of clear up at the back and defend, etc. And you see Cardona literally stuck at the net or in and around the net area, and he just doesn't want to move from there because his best attributes are his volley, his blocking, because his blocking throughout the match was unbelievable. I mean, Jon Sanz was hitting some bombs in that cross-court battle, and Cardona was just blocking every single one of them. And obviously his smash. So I think that partnership does seem to work from a kind of what would you call it, from a strategic standpoint, from a game style standpoint. I just think that what let them down was Cardona in the key moments of the matches. I think in both tie breaks, Coki and Jon looked for Cardona a lot. They played a lot of the balls to him because obviously he's very young. He doesn't have as much experience as Paquito, that's for sure. And let's be honest, he's a worse player than Paquito is today. We'll see what happens in the future. But I mean, Paquito is one of the greats of paddle. He still is. So, and I do think that Cardona struggled in those key tie breaks of that semi-final against Coki and Jon. He produced quite a few unforced errors with relatively easy shots as well, kind of ground strokes or maybe easy volleys or blocks that he was producing before, but he was mishitting the ball. And I think that just went down to, well, feeling the pressure of playing a semi-final alongside Paquito Navarro. But I wasn't very confident regarding that partnership when we talked about the new pairs formed a few weeks ago. After watching this tournament, I do think that they can achieve good things. I mean, the tour is so competitive at the moment that it's going to be very hard for them to, well, I don't think they're going to win a tournament, to put it frankly. I mean, unless they play a P2 and the top pairs are out for some reason, I just don't see it. But I think they can fight to be in the semifinals consistently. It just depends on the draw and who they face. That's the bigger problem. But I genuinely think that they could beat, they could beat Yanguas and Stupa. I genuinely think so. I think that can be a very even battle. I think they can beat Coki and Jon. I mean, it could have happened literally this week in Finland. And I mean, we'll see about Lebron and Di Nenno. They haven't faced them, but I do think they could beat them as well potentially. So yeah, quite impressed. Surprisingly impressed. How about you, Gons?
Yeah, I think very similar thoughts as well. The key for me is going to be how Cardona manages sort of these important moments, because I think it's quite clear that most of the opposition they're going to look for him, and they're going to try and play him out, given how young he is, and he's probably just a bit more nervous playing alongside such a legend such as Paquito. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops from that point of view. And I think, to be honest, this is going to do him so well. I think after he finishes his partnership with Paquito, he's going to be like a real serious top player, and he's going to start kind of being at the top, I think, and kind of being thought about by the really top players. I can see him like basically going to school with Paquito and coming out of it with a real paddle degree. Honestly, I think Paquito's really gonna fine tune him to be an incredible player. Because let's be honest, I think he's got like he's basically got all the assets of a kind of a modern paddle player. Like he's got the base. He just needs a bit of development in certain areas to really be challenging at the top. But really impressed again with kind of their styles as well. I think you mentioned that kind of diagonal play, which maybe we don't see so often nowadays, because it's so centered around either players kind of really wanting to be offensive and kind of going all the way to, trying to win the net as quick as possible, or even in certain cases, just kind of staying at the back. But I think this is working kind of quite well, to be honest. And I think it could be definitely a bit of a, I guess, surprise element for other opposition as well when they play them. I think I was surprised as well with kind of Paquito. I had a bit of doubts in terms of how is he going to adjust to a left-sided player that potentially as well wants kind of more volume and kind of wants to get more in the air and on his side of things. And it seems for now that that's like fine. I think obviously they still need to fine tune in a couple of moments, but I think that will come with time. So yeah, I mean, I'd say out of all the ones that I guess debuted, I mean, kind of how we've gone, definitely Lebron and Di Nenno, the more standout ones. But I'd say after that, I was kind of more impressed with Paquito and Cardona. And I think another element of it as well, because I'm sure we'll touch upon it in when we talk about the next pairs. But I felt like both players individually kind of gave their level. It wasn't, sometimes you see this, right? You join a pair and how both players are playing at the moment, but one of them is actually not playing that well and the other might be playing that well. I actually felt like not only did the pair as a whole kind of combine into a, let's say, positive result and seem good, but individually, I felt like both players actually played well as well. They played kind of to their level. So yeah, I think I agree. I mean, they definitely should be, when we talked about them in the past, like, I mean, quarterfinals, I think should be kind of like a given for them, should be kind of the base case result for them in a tournament, but they could challenge for semi-final here and there. And I mean, in my eyes, I would be quite successful.
So maybe should we move on to, I mean, there's other two major pairs that made their debut. Probably one that we can cover off very quickly and that we definitely both called is Alex Ruiz and Javier Garrido. Now, look, I'm laughing because we've spoken a lot about that partnership offline, and we both, well, offline and online, because we did share our thoughts throughout one of our previous episodes, and we were both, we to put it frankly, we don't really see them having a future, and we don't see them performing well. And they literally proved it straight away this week. They lost in the second round. I'm I'm forgetting who they lost it to. Oh, sorry, no, they lost to Livac and Chozas in their first tournament together, because Livac and Ausburger won't be playing together going forward. Quite a big surprise, but we won't go into that right now. So Livac played this tournament as a one-off with Chozas. They made the quarterfinals, so credit to them. I really like Livac as a future player. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's aggressive, and we don't see that many aggressive forehand players. Well, I think generally more so today, but yeah, excited for his future. But yeah, Alex Ruiz and Javi Garrido lost that match against Chozas and Livac 7-6, 7-6. So obviously it could have gone the other way. Very tight match, but massive fail for Ruiz and Garrido on their debut. And before I just share, I ask you for your thoughts, I just wanted to reiterate, given that we've already spoken about this, we hadn't seen Garrido and Ruiz announce their partnership. And we were quite surprised because, two of the top 20 players in the world playing together, quite a few people were probably waiting for them to announce it. There's probably people who really do trust them as a pair, and fair enough, they are top players. It doesn't mean that we're right not trusting them, but the announcement was so average. I mean, it was like a very basic Instagram post with just like a line saying excited to play together. And I think that probably shows how little excitement there is on their behalf regarding teaming up. I mean, that's what I'm seeing at least. But yeah, Gons, what do you think about them?
Horrible, to be honest. I just, there's no other way to put it. I think since the beginning, this has just given off such bad vibes, honestly, from the Instagram post that you just mentioned to the fact that they didn't seem coordinated to train together. So Garrido playing that FIP in Sardinia, then Alex Ruiz playing the Euro champs. I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got a new pair and you're kind of one of the top and you kind of want to continue on your season and challenge and stuff, I think you would kind of make the effort and make way to at least like maybe even play that FIP tournament together in Sardinia. Why was Garrido playing with Bella, to be honest? I don't see any reason why. I mean, Alex Ruiz was going to play there next week in the Euro Champs, so he might as well play that tournament and stay there. So, I mean, obviously we don't know if there's any other extra, out of game reasons that they couldn't be there or commitments or whatever. But anyways, it hasn't given off good vibes at all since the beginning. The way kind of Yanguas left Garrido, I'm sure Garrido was hurting quite a bit. And then the way, again, Alex kind of took the liberty to leave Momo like so suddenly. And the fact, it literally, I think you put this quite rightly a few episodes ago, it just literally seems like Garrido has taken the FIP rankings and gone like, okay, so who's the next available with the most amount of points? Alex Ruiz. Okay, here you go. Let me give him a call. Can we play together? Because literally, from a paddle point of view, it just doesn't make any sense, I don't think. And then from a kind of aura, like vibes, it just seems horrible, to be honest. They don't seem like they want to play to each other. I mean, if we look at like just, let's say, straight opposite, you've got Lebron and Di Nenno. Incredible announcement video, kind of funny, like showing their game, training videos, posting on Instagram, and when they play as well, such positive vibes and everything. So you can just see like such difference from one and the other. One's like really excited to play together and like they can't wait to get on court and stuff. And the other, literally, their official announcement was it on the day they debuted or like a day before? Honestly, it was something like that. Yeah. So it's just like, I do not see any future at all with this partnership. I mean, and like I said, from a paddle perspective, there's just so many doubts in terms of on the defensive side. Like who's going to be really defending the points? I think as well, mentally, they've just lost 2 tie breaks and kind of, as you say, that they could have won, which, I mean, a tie break obviously can happen, but they did lose 7-2 and 7-4. And some of the things that have always characterized Ruth and Garrido is kind of the mental side. Like they've never, when the key moments arise, are they going to be there and step up? And yeah, I still have those doubts, especially if they're both together, because at least if they have a partner that can deal with those moments, then that gives them more support. So yeah, I mean, just to finish it off, like I just don't see them doing well at all. And I don't even see them ending the year together, if I'm honest.
No, I agree. And I just wanted to mention one quick thing. I was just thinking when Paquito was looking for partners, he could have gone for Alex Ruiz. He's got more points than Pablo Cardona. He's a more seasoned player than Pablo Cardona. And many would say he's a safer bet. But Paquito has said, hey, what's going to actually match my game style? I'm getting older. Maybe I need a young guy with a lot of kind of just wanting to excel, wanting to improve, wanting to learn. And also just thinking, hey, is Alex Ruiz in the best moment of his career? Which he clearly isn't. I mean, we've spoken about the Garrido Ruiz partnership a lot in terms of making them equal, like both struggling in the key moments of matches and both being very good in the attacking phase of the game, but not being very good defensively. But being frank, Garrido is right now a couple of levels above Ruiz. I mean, he was part of the best and most improved pair this season when he was playing with Yanguas a few weeks ago. He was having a hell of a season. He was looking so consistent. He was also looking much better in defense. I mean, his smashing and his attacking play has always been impressive, but now it was getting up there with the best in terms of the best players in the world, smashing, volleying, biboras, etc. Whereas Ruiz is just going down and down in terms of his level. I don't know whether it's due to that injury that he's been suffering and that he suffered a couple of months ago. Maybe he's still lingering on with it, whether it's down to just a bit of a dip in his level of form. But I just wanted to mention that they're clearly in two very different moments of their careers. And for Alex Ruiz, yeah, Garrido's probably one of the best options that he can team up with. So from that standpoint, I get it. But it was Garrido who called Ruiz. And that's what I don't understand. But anyway, shall we move on to the last major pair?
Yeah, of course. And it was none other than Stupa and Yanguas. Now, I will say, probably kind of a bit disappointed, if I'm honest. I did have them as, well, top two favorites. And I remember saying that I'd probably, if I had to bet and put my house on the line, I'd take Stupa and Yanguas over Lebron and Di Nenno, just because I thought they'd be a better fit. And I didn't expect Lebron to suddenly be, adjust to the backhand like that quickly. Now, thank God I didn't actually bet my house because that could have gone really bad. But in any case, yeah, just a bit disappointing from them. Now, they did go out to Coki and Jon, who we also both mentioned that we saw them up there this tournament in terms of favorites, because just how good they've been and how long they've been together. That probably was a plus. And you could see in the match as well, like sometimes you did feel that Stupa and Yanguas, from a stylistic point of view, I think there's like things that they can clean up in terms of communication and when kind of like, and the kind of the switch play as well sometimes. So I think those things, it kind of will regress to a mean where they'll obviously like improve. But I think that maybe the main thing that I wanted to highlight, and is something that we also have been discussing lately, which kind of to me is the concern, I would say, for them going forward, is really like Stupa's level. I think that offensively, he's just not generating as many winners maybe as he used to. I think that he's abusing the smash too much and it's just not working. And I think maybe, again, this kind of is related to the fact that Bozzoni wants to really kind of make Stupa this in and out finisher. And we've seen this the season, but in the same, I think we talked about how for Los Super Pibes, it kind of seemed like Di Nenno was fine, but Stupa wasn't. And I feel like in this partnership, again, the one that I'm most concerned about is Stupa, because frankly, the way they're going to win is if Stupa is on fire, let's say, because he's the one that needs to generate the most amount of winners. Of course, Yanguas can do that, but I don't see them winning a match because Yanguas kind of like outfires, let's say, or outplays from an offensive side the opponents. Like it will have to be Stupa, and I'm just not sure if or at least right now he's definitely not at that level, and that's the main concern for me. I think it's kind of what I was talking about with Paquito and Cardona, that individually they still both played to their level, and together they played like it was kind of like positive result. For Stupa and Yanguas, I just see Stupa just individually not playing to his level, and I think that's what could hinder the partnership going forward. So let's see how it goes. But in terms as well of that split of Los Super Pibes and how we talked about, I think you can kind of see that the kind of player letting the pair down Stupa more than Martín. And maybe that's the reason why kind of Martín eventually, quit, because he didn't see, or he couldn't see himself with Stupa and Stupa improving to the level that he needed to for them to win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I also think that Yanguas didn't play to his level, at least throughout some of the key moments during the matches. I think there's one key thing that they have to adjust as a pair, and it's those balls down the middle. I think Yanguas is used to covering a lot of the middle of the court because he has a great backhand volley, because he's tall. So he has actually improved his smash a lot. He's got a great bibora. He basically trusts his aerial play and him covering the center of the court a lot. And he has done that previously with different pairs, but you could see a lot of the moments, during a lot of moments throughout this week in Finland, that those balls down the middle, you had Stupa ready to play a forehand shot, maybe an easy lob or a bandeja or a bibora, and Yanguas was going for it. And either if it was a ground stroke, he'd go for a lob, and it wasn't the easiest moment to play a lob because it was a good volley from the opponent, and he'd leave the lob short and they'd win the point. And obviously it's much easier to play a lob with with your forehand if it's a good volley, because you have a lot of more strength with your forehand shot than with your backhand shot. Then the aerial play, I mean, balls down the middle for a forehand player are really tough. And if the backhand player can cover you, it's the much better option. And there were a lot of times where Yanguas would play a ball down the middle that was tough to play. He'd leave a relatively easy ball for the opponents to maybe go for a bajada if the ball was coming off a lot from the back glass, or literally just make a mistake and send it into the net. So I think that's one key thing that they have to improve. Now, I don't think it was a total shit show. I mean, they made the quarterfinals, they won 2 games, they lost 6-4, 7-6, and that tiebreak that ended 13-11 to Coki and Jon could have gone either way. So, hey, I mean, I do think we can take that loss with a pinch of salt, but still, they just didn't seem to, their game styles didn't seem to be that in sync. And it's normal. They haven't trained together for that long, but I think you can see that Stupa is not at the best, not in the best moment in terms of form, maybe down to his mental moment, because he's probably taken a big blow with Martín Di Nenno calling quits on his partnership with Stupa. He definitely didn't expect it. And he said that throughout interviews since their split. So it must be really tough thinking that you're in a really secure partnership, that you're basically secured within the top, either the 3rd best pair or the 4th best pair, probably the 3rd best, given that Paquito and Lebron weren't doing well when they were together. And now suddenly you're going to have to create a whole new ecosystem of play with a new partner who's totally different to Di Nenno, because Yanguas and Di Nenno are completely different. I mean, Yanguas probably will generate more winners than Di Nenno in matches, but defensively, Di Nenno is a level or 2 above Yanguas. So yeah, I think, as you say, Stupa has to get back to his best for this partnership to work. And I actually just wanted to look back at our predictions on what we thought these new pairs looked like and how they were going to perform. And you and I both thought that Yanguas and Stupa looked like the best on paper. They've now gone and produced the worst tournament out of the top pairs, the new pairs. Then I think we said that we didn't trust Cardona and Paquito. They're looking pretty decent. And we thought that Lebron's decision going back to the backhand and then working with Cilingo, who had no experience as a coach, was a massive gamble. They've gone and won the tournament. They've played unbelievably well. So, yeah, maybe we should just quit the podcast.
Or the prediction game. Well, to defend us, let me just say that we also did say that Lebron and Di Nenno, we thought they were up there with the favorites. So,
yeah.
I mean, and we also did say Coki and Jon as well there. I mean, I remember I think you put them as well in your top two favorites. They reached the final and it was like a competitive match. So, I mean, yeah, there were definitely some bad predictions out there, but I think others were quite decent.
And I agree. What I'm worried about, or one of the things I'm worried about with Yanguas and Stupa, is this whole thing of Stupa only working with Bozzoni, only wanting one coach, and having to have his partner fit into that system. I think
I agree with that.
I think Stupa is in a moment of within his career that he was obviously very close to reaching the number one spot in the rankings with Di Nenno very recently. Now he's dropped down a bit. His level has dropped down a bit. And this could go either way. I mean, if he keeps dropping, then suddenly he may just not be one of the top 4 or 5 backhand players in the world. And then suddenly it's really hard to get back from that and start attracting top players to play with you. So this is a key moment in his career. And I think he's been working with Bozzoni for a very long time. And I do think Bozzoni is a hell of a coach. But it could potentially make sense to, I mean, Yanguas is this season's most improved player. He was having an amazing partnership with Juan Lebrón, who's obviously a legend of the game, and he was doing a hell of a job on that bench with Garrido and Yanguas. And he was specifically working with Yanguas more than Garrido. He was basically Yanguas' own personal coach. And Yanguas and him have stopped working together. Now, is the right decision? Sorry, I mean, shouldn't they bring in Juan Lebrón, who's been doing so well with Yanguas, and form like a partnership where they have 2 coaches and maybe they change around in terms of you can have Bozzoni go to one tournament, you can have Juan Lebrón go to the next. I mean, a bit like Coki and Tapia with their own coaches. We've seen that work. So if this partnership, I think they have to go a little bit rogue and offer something different, not just go with let's make Stupa continue to go for all the risky shots, because let's be honest, it's not working for him. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. But that's just an opinion that I wanted to share, and it'd be good to get our viewers and our kind of fans' thoughts on that as well. And just maybe one last question, Gons, that I did want to ask you, because we've spoken about all the new pairs, but we haven't spoken about Coki and Jon, who obviously made the final and knocked out 2 of the big favorites, because they knocked out Yanguas and Stupa in the quarterfinals, Paquito and Cardona in the semifinals. The final wasn't their best match, particularly Jon Sanz, who keeps going for random smashes and too many smashes in my eyes. And I think that lets that partnership down. But a question that I wanted to pose is, do you think Coki and Jon can realistically challenge for the number 3 spot? Basically, almost like the new best of the rest, given that we've seen how the season's going. Chingalan and Goyo Tapia literally have won everything for the last 5 months. Can Coki and Jon be the new best of the rest? I mean, can they be the 3rd best pair?
I certainly think so. I mean, they've shown that they can win. They've won a title already. In theory, they won the title of the best of the rest because the top pairs weren't at that tournament. They've obviously now reached the final. I agree with you. It wasn't their best match in the final. I mean, let me just give some of the stats really quick from Nieto. So Coki Nieto, 6 winners, 5 unforced errors. Sanz, 12 winners, 9 unforced errors. I mean, Coki Nieto had a positive contribution score of 4.6, and actually Sanz had a negative contribution of minus 2.6. So given those stats, which aren't, let's say, good in any way, shape, or form, they still kind of only just lost 7-5 and 6-3. So basically a break either way. And in that first set, they started off kind of quite well. They broke straight away, and they were kind of winning the first set with a breakup. So having said that, I mean, they still competed in that final, and they kind of played not to their level. So I definitely think that they can challenge and they can be up there. Again, Coki to me has actually also been one of the most improved players this season, and he's been so good. Like, both from a I guess winner generation perspective, I think he's improved that a lot. He's added a bit of a smash as well. I think his Bibora or Bandeja has improved a lot. And I mean, from the defensive side, I think we all knew how good he was. He just barely commits any unforced errors. And I think he's been that sort of like stable, like part of the partnership. Now, the question is in Jon Sanz. If we can get the Jon Sanz that generates a lot of winners and kind of limits a bit his unforced errors, because I think one thing that we've clearly seen from Jon Sanz is he's the one that takes most of the risky shots. And it's very rare to see Jon Sanz with a low unforced error count. The question is how can he keep, let's say, the unforced errors between 10 and 12, but can he generate you around 25 to 30 like winners? If that's the case, which I think is kind of what we saw in Bordeaux, then I mean, they are a hell of a pair and they're going to be really tough to beat, because on the other side, you've got Coki, who can, in his best day, I think we saw one match at Bordeaux, he maybe had one unforced error and something like 20 winners, something like that. But anyways, he keeps his unforced error count so low. And if he can generate, let's say, 10 plus winners. So I definitely see them up there, and how the tour has like formed and kind of with the pairs out there. I mean, Lebron and Di Nenno, let's see how it goes, but maybe that could be sort of the pairs that's going to challenging the most. But at the moment, I definitely see them. I mean, against Paquito and Cardona, I can definitely see them winning against Stupa and Yanguas. I mean, they beat them already, so it's just going to be really interesting. But yeah, 100%, I can see them as a. I think now for them, semifinals is like very attainable in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, my main worry with them is that they both came into Premier Padel with not that many Premier Padel points, because when the switchover happened between the World Padel Tour and Premier Padel, it just seemed like Coki and Jon hadn't performed that well during the Premier Padel tournament. So right now their seeding's quite low. So they're going to still have to climb a lot of positions to have draws that favor them reaching the semifinals. Now, if you ask me, who do I think the third best pair is? Right now, it is probably between Lebron and Di Nenno, given what we've seen them produce this week and given that what we've seen them capable of, and Coki and Jon. It's not that Yanguas and Stupa and Paquito and Cardona can't be that third best. I just maybe put them one step below right now, as it is today. But those four pairs are really the only pairs that can challenge for that spot. Alex, Ruiz, and Javier Garrido will not be challenging for that. Tello and Vela, I mean, they lost against Chamero and Valdés this week. Again, total shit show. I don't know what Tello's still doing in that partnership, to be honest. I mean, he is playing with the GOAT, so respect where respect is due, but I don't get it. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely see them as one of the pairs that can be the top three. It's just, from a ranking perspective, it's going to be very hard for them to reach it unless they keep just knocking out all the other pairs in and around those rankings from here until the end of the season. And yeah, just to reiterate what you were saying with Jon Sanz, I just don't think that he has to go for that many smashes and that many risky shots. I mean, he's so fit, so electric. His volleys are good. Defensively, he's quite quick. I mean, obviously, he's not that technical. I mean, his lobs sometimes go long, as in his lob's not one of his best shots. And he sometimes produces a few unforced errors with it, just because technically he's not as gifted as maybe some of the other players like Di Nenno or even Coki Nieto. But given that they're so electric, they're really in sync. They work really well, him and Coki. It's like you can see what that expression, opposites attract. I mean, they definitely attract, and that's why this partnership works. I just don't think he has to go for that many winners. I mean, I think when points start being really long, I think that really benefits Coki and Jon. I mean, they're both some of the fittest players on the tour, and they have so many different ways of generating winners. They're good at the net. I don't think he has to take that many risks. So, yeah, excited to see what comes September, because now, very sadly, it's like a 3-4 week break, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So no paddle. Maybe we'll be watching those training videos that they post maybe here and there, and get excited and hyped up about those. But yeah, no Premier Padel for a long time. I think is it the first week of September that there's the Madrid P1. But in any case, Yeah, Hugo. I mean, it's been a pleasure to talk to you again about this. Well, about paddle and the Premier Padel tournament in Finland. And yeah, maybe also take the time to mention to our fans that we'll probably be taking a bit of a break ourselves. I think definitely maybe the next 2 weeks, and then we'll see about the following weeks. I mean, we're trying to get as well. Maybe we can bring in some people to talk on the paddle pod. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But I hope that everyone as well keeps well and has a good break if they are on holiday. And we'll be missing you over the next 2 weeks. But when we come back, it's gonna be a hell of an end to the year. I think yeah, we've got some special stuff lined up.
Yeah, we definitely have. And there's a lot of paddle still left to play. I mean, we've just gone over the equator of the season. I think 14 out of the 25 tournaments of the season have been played or something like that. So still a lot of tournaments left. Still, the race is on for the number one spot, at least in my eyes. The race is on for the best of the rest or the new best of the rest. Will Lebron suddenly come back from the depths of, well, inconsistency and struggles to suddenly be back at the top of his game? Because if he does, he's one of the best players paddle's ever seen. So yeah, so much to still watch. But yeah, we'll probably be back in a couple of weeks unless we have any major kind of guest appearances, which will be epic. Guys, please keep sharing the comments that you do share and keep interacting. And yeah, all the best and catch you soon. Have a nice holiday if you do enjoy some holiday soon.